Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, you're very welcome. I'm Jane, my husband Mike does everything behind the camera. We're British early retirees, we have no debt, we've paid off the mortgage and we live a thrifty, frugal and money-saving life here in Brittany in northwest France. And every Sunday we share with you an aspect of our private lives and the things that we do all of the time to save money. If you're absolutely new here and you clicked on the video because of the title, I'm going to give you a micro background. Mike and I are early retirees. I'm a retired teacher. He is a retired local government officer. We have reduced pensions. We did not work until we were 67. We worked until we were 55 and then took our pensions. In doing so, we have reduced private pensions from our income, and they are direct benefit pensions, which means they're index linked and we will get them until we die. If one of us dies, the other one gets half of the survivor gets half of the deceased's pensions until they die. Okay, so that's where our part of our income comes from. And the other part of our income comes from running this YouTube channel. So if you're interested in being self-employed in France or living off not much money in France or being semi-retired and having some money on the side that you earn, you're in the right place. So I'm going to answer the questions that the viewers have asked me today. Some of them quite general, some of them quite specific about living and working and earning money in France and paying taxes in France. Because there is this misheld belief that, you know, especially if you're from maybe countries like America, that you would be so much worse off if you lived in a country like France because taxes are so high. So I'm going to talk about that today and dispel some of those myths and rumours and talk about taxes. I'll talk about our taxes and our personal experience. And yes, all of this does have something to do with thrifty living, so stay tuned. Hello everybody, this is Jane from the future in the editing suite watching this video back, and it's a very long video, so we have time stamped it and given it chapters. So forward to the bit that you're interested in, or skip the bits that you don't like, or watch it at your leisure and just stop it and come back to it if you wish. So we apologise for the long video, but we really wanted to answer your questions about living and working and paying taxes here in France. Over to the video. I've called the first section Dodgy People because I think people who dodge their taxes are dodgy people. And the first question came from Mrs. H3972, and you said a lot about taxes, Mrs. H, but the nub of the matter was, do people work cash in hand in France? And then you asked something about eBay sales, so I'll talk about that. Mrs. H, dodgy people dodging their taxes, trying to wiggle out of paying, obviously exist everywhere. And there will be people in France, just like there are in the UK where you live, who try and dodge their taxes by doing some of their work or a lot of their work for cash. Doesn't do you any good at all. And you will, if you stay tuned and watch all of the video, you will know that the more cash you pay in and the more taxes you pay, for example, the better your pension will be, the better your rewards will be. So, it is illegal in the UK to work for cash in hand, and it is illegal to work in France for cash in hand. I would never employ somebody cash in hand. So, for example, I paid someone to do some work around my house. You are supposed to get a devis in writing, and that has to come through an email, and there's a digital footprint for that. You then, for the work to be done, sign that devis and return it. Then they will do the work and then they will issue a facture. Their work must have, for most work these days, I can't think of any work that doesn't have it, a decennial insurance. So their work is fully covered for 10 years. So if you have tiles put on your kitchen wall and they fall off within 10 years, you can go back to them at any stage and say, the tiles have come off the wall, come and put them right. The next question comes from Joanne, which is very similar, Joanne. You say, do they allow you to barter for things instead of using cash? It's an odd one. Informally, here's an example. If you look after your friend's dog when they go on holiday, and then in return when you go on holiday, they look after your dog, I think that's absolutely fine. But imagine somebody does some work around your house and the bill for that would come to, let's say, €2,000. And instead of you having a proper bill and doing it all legally and properly, you agreed with them, well, my second-hand ride-on lawnmower is worth that. I will give you my ride-on lawnmower for that work. You, first of all, have got no guarantee for the work. They've got no guarantee that you're actually going to give them the lawnmower. There are no guarantees in place. Of course, that is illegal too. It is illegal. So I don't know anybody who would be so daft as to barter. There's no way. You know, I was going out there with my professional equipment and doing professional work for people. There's no way that I would take goods instead of money. I want the money to go through my bank account. So there you go. Joanne and Mrs. H. Hope that answers your question. I absolutely do not condone it either. As somebody who pays tax on everything I earn through pay as you earn system in the UK, and by submitting cotizations here and everything with a digital footprint and a digital trail behind it for penny for everything I've earned all my life, I don't appreciate anybody out there dodging their taxes. The next section I'm going to title Yard Sales, because I've been asked a couple of questions about, do you pay taxes? Do you declare this on your tax returns if you've sold any personal items? So let's get going on that one. Laura asks, do you have to declare selling personal items? Now, this very much relates to the channel, because I always say, if you need to get an emergency fund together, if you need to get money together, or you want to save up some money really quickly, I really do promote having a very good declutter and selling everything you don't need, you don't want, you don't like, you don't wear, that your kids don't play with anymore. Get it sold. There's various ways you can do that here in France. You can sell that on Facebook Marketplace. You can sell it on Le Bon Coin. You can rock up to the French version of a yard sale, and you can sell it a vide-grenière, empty your attic and set up a little table, pay the money to whoever's collecting it. It might be anyone from the football club to the local commune, paid through the mairie. So you pay per metre for your table and you sell your items, your personal items. You might do 2 or 3 of these a year, get rid of all of that. And it's up to a certain amount. I think it's like up to €1,000 or something. Of course, no, you do not have to declare it. I had a very similar question from Trust But Verified. Can you have a garage sale? Is that taxed? So again, like we are doing at the moment, we're moving out of this house, we're going on to another property, we're not taking stuff with us. It's more expensive to take it than it is to buy it all secondhand when we get there. No, that is not. That is just your personal stuff. That is very different from the question that goes back to a previous question about being a reseller or an eBay seller. And it is this: you can be a reseller and sell things at vide-grenières, at places like that, but you are registered to do that. And you have a SIRET number, you have a business number, and when you turn up to that sale, somebody might come up to you from a charity, or from the mayor's office and say to you, is this private or is this business? If it's business, can you provide me with your SIRET number, please? So therefore, if you are an eBay reseller, and lots of people do that, or you are regularly buying things to sell secondhand, no different from somebody who has a shop or is a bricon or a seller, you have a business number and you submit your tax returns for that, and you pay your social security payments at the required amounts for what you sell. So I hope that answers your questions about garage sales. The next section I'm going to call VAT, and that's massively to do with being a frugal living channel, because everything that we buy has tax on it and you need to know. You therefore can make the choice whether you pay that tax or not by simply buying it or not, or by choosing to buy it secondhand. There's obviously no VAT on secondhand goods. So trust but verify, you ask this question. What is the rate of VAT in France? Is it the same in all European countries? I'll answer that bit now. Each country in Europe is a separate sovereign country. They have their own laws, they have their own taxes, they have their own VAT. Europe is not one country. Every single country within there has their own separate taxation system. And this one, do you say expats? So I'm going to use immigrants. Do expats, I call myself an immigrant, have to pay VAT? Have a think about that one. Everybody who's in your country, when they walk up to the cash register and they pay for something, they don't flash their visa and go, well, I'm only here temporarily, I don't have to pay VAT. Everybody pays VAT. So I'm going to now move from seeing you, seeing me, to putting some graphics up on the page, and I will talk to you and show you the different levels of value added tax for different things here in France. To answer your questions about VAT in France, I got this information from the French government website on taxation, and it gave me as much information as I could understand. So this is what I understand of it. So in most cases, if you buy something from a jumper to a pot of paint, you are paying 20% value added tax on that. And that's really important to a frugal person, because you can decide whether you pay that tax or not by whether you buy it or not. And then there's the reduced taxes, and that applied to passenger transport, so your bus fare, your train fare. And then they talked about accommodation and furnished rental accommodation, and that, when I looked into that further, was for hotels, and that was for things like Airbnbs or classified websites. Certain renovations and work that you had done to your house only had 10% VAT. If you eat in a restaurant, that's interesting to see that, isn't it? That you only pay 10% VAT on that. So this bit here of non-refundable medicines, that was things like paracetamol, for example. And then there was the entrance fees into what I would call cultural activities. I thought it was really interesting that you pay less tax on having a good time than you do on buying a jumper. Let's have a look at lower rates of VAT. The first one surprised me because in the UK, any food that's not prepared in any way, so anything that's just a simple ingredient, a bag of flour, a packet of apples, those type of things have no VAT on them at all. But here in France, all food has got VAT on it. Anyone wants to correct me on that? Please feel free to do so. But from my research, all food has 5.5%. And then I've got the other things that I found here, from building land for non-profit housing, services for the disabled and equipment for the disabled. I was quite surprised to see there was any VAT on that at all. And then it's got gas and electricity subscriptions. Now, I pay quite a lot of tax on my electricity bill. When I look at my electricity bill, almost half of it, all added together, is tax. But it's 5.5% on the subscription. And in the UK, we call that the standing charge. And then we've got the supply of heat from renewable energy sources. I don't know what that means. Does that mean like your solar panels? I don't know. Books are only 5.5%, including digital. I like this one. Live performances. You go and see a live performance, you're only paying 5.5%. Social housing and works to improve the energy quality of housing. It's 5.5%. And this one, works of art. God, I would have thought that would have been much higher. And then we've got the last bit, and if you want to see that in detail, just freeze the screen. I was quite surprised to see that those had such low taxes. I'm now going to get onto a section that I call taxes and earning money. And I'm going to start with you, Laura, and your question, can you have 2 business registrations? So I'll talk to you now, and I'll also get Mike to put a box up on the screen of showing you of your businesses that you can register for. So imagine that you've come to France and you've come here on a entrepreneurial visa where you've given them a business plan and said, I'm going to come to France and work. I'm an accountant. I do freelance work. My customers are in Germany, Belgium, Australia, or I do legal advice or anything like that. And you can work from anywhere. Or imagine you're an online English teacher, or you're coming to France with some skill that you're going to transfer over to France and you're going to work. So you want to set yourself up as a self-employed person. So if the easiest way to do that is to set yourself up as a micro enterprise, so a small business, but you have to choose your regime. And these are the 4. So there's artisan, means you provide a service. It might be you clean houses, you cut hair, you're a beautician, you're a builder, you fit windows, you provide a service. The next one is commercial sales. And in there you say, I'm going to buy a bar, I'm going to buy a shop, and I'm going to have commercial sales. The next one is the regime that Mike and I are under, which is professional liberal. And this is where you provide technical services, or you're a teacher, you're an accountant, or some of those are restricted services. So for example, you're a nurse and you want to move to France. It means you've got to come to France, pass the language level, plus take a period of time training in France to get the French qualification. I don't think they make you do the whole training, but they do make you do a part of it. Anything medical is the same as that as well. The next one I've got here is sales agent. So that's very much things like being an estate agent. You can be a self-employed estate agent. So those are the things. So this question I've got here, can you have 2 registrations? The answer to that is just a simple flat no. I cannot be an artisan. So imagine I wanted to set myself up as an artisan and start a cleaning company and going around cleaning holiday homes, or a care company going around and being a carer. First of all, I'd need to pass the language test. And secondly, I'd need to take the full French course of how to be a carer. And then I can work either for an agency or set up myself. And I hope you could see what Mike put up on screen to show you the different things that you could register as a self-employed person. Misfit, you ask a question that people might be very interested about if they are just interested in taxes in general. You ask this: Are your shopping hauls tax deductible in France? Now, I'm going to talk about tax in detail next, but the simple answer to your question is, as we are registered as micro enterprise, we don't on a tax return write down any of our costs. We can't offset any costs. But I'm going to go into a bit more detail right now with a graphic on the screen to talk to you about tax thresholds in France. So, as I'm going to just explain this to you, Misfit. For example, if I buy clothes, I can't say, oh, they're for my YouTube work and offset them. Nope, can't do that. I bought a new camera. Nope, can't do that. I bought a new laptop. Nope, can't do that. I cannot offset those costs. And I'm going to explain next with a little graphic up to help you why we don't and can't do that. Okay, let's talk taxes and tax thresholds and who pays tax and what tax they pay as a small business, as a micro enterprise. Let's start with this one. So I'm going to get Mike to put this up on the screen up here to help you with this. So first of all, we are allowed to earn up to 77,000 euros a year. We don't earn anything like that, so we don't worry about that. We don't even look at that figure. And if we did earn up to 77,000, the first 33% of that isn't taxed. So going back to the last question of things like, are shopping hauls tax deductible? Would a camera be tax deductible? Would anything we do for the channel be tax deductible? They give us an allowance of 33%. So if you're people like Mike and I, and we'll go into this in more detail, who don't earn enough to pay any tax, it's not beneficial to us to spend any money on the channel. So, of course, we wouldn't do anything that cost us any money because we don't earn enough to pay tax. So we don't benefit in any way from that 33% that we don't pay tax on. So the next part of it is personal allowances. And the personal allowance for a couple is 22,994. So as a couple, we don't pay tax on the first 22,994. And I can assure you that we don't earn to 22,994 on YouTube. YouTube is, you don't earn that much money. We're a very, very small channel. You want to help us out? You like our videos? Let the adverts roll. That's what you can do. So there we go. So you don't pay tax on the first 33%, and you don't pay tax as a couple on the first, let's round that up, the first 23,000. And that is better than the UK because everybody's got their own tax allowance in the UK. So if you are a couple with a child at home, or somebody's at home looking after the children, and you've got one person going out and earning money, and that's the same. If you're self-employed, you've got all the same tax benefits as people who are working. So I hope that the graphic on the screen really helped you there to see that. You don't pay tax on the first 33%, and you don't pay tax as a married couple on the first 23 grand. The next section I'm going to call YouTube. I've got a couple of earning money through YouTube questions. Laura asks, does YouTube issue you with an end of year slip detailing earnings? Laura, YouTube does that every single month. We keep that, we keep screenshots of that, we keep that. That's proof that we've got if the tax department or the social security department ever do an audit on us and want to see how much money we've earned against how much money we've declared. We've got a digital footprint of that to prove that. The next YouTube question I've got here is Cranberry asks, tell us about YouTube in France. What category did you choose? How long does it take you to build a channel? Okay, Cranberry. We chose the regime of professional liberal because that's the one you can. You're considered as a creator, a artistic creator with YouTube. And how long does it take to build a YouTube channel is how long is a piece of string. You can be a YouTube channel like Gary's Economics and have over 1 million subscribers in 3 years. Or you can be a YouTube channel like ours, and we've been going for about 3 or 4 years, and I've got 40,000 odd subscribers. So it's just how long is a piece of string. There are people out there with YouTube channels that have been going for as long as ours who've got 2,000 subscribers. People are just not watching them. It depends on your genre. It really does. I mean, I'm in a very niche genre. Talking about frugal living and money saving and so on is not the world's most popular genre. It is to us. We know it's very important to save money and live frugally, but it depends. So it's one of those, how long is a piece of string? If you start a YouTube channel, the very best of luck to you. If you watch in future, tell us about it and we'll link everyone else to your channel. My last section I'm going to call, are all those taxes worth it? Now, I took an example of a married couple with no children and their gross income for the pair of them was $60,000 a year. Now, when I looked at their social security payments, plus their taxes, plus their tax allowances, on their $60,000 a year, they would pay in total 28.2% deductions. So if we called that 30%, we would say on average, that couple with $60,000 a year, $30,000 each, would lose 1/3 of their income. That is about the same as how much you hand over in the UK. So my question was from Lucy, explain taxes paid versus benefits received. So you said the US is very different from Europe and France, and that people in America had the viewpoint that people in Europe are paying very high taxes. So my question for you, if you're watching in America and you're looking at me here, thinking that my taxes are very high, when Mike and I don't pay taxes. We pay social security payments. We pay out 24.6% of our income every single month to social security payments. And I'm going to talk about the things that we get for that. So that 24.6% that people pays for all of our healthcare and all of our medication. So we never have to worry. We also don't have to worry if we lose our jobs. If we lose our jobs, we don't lose our healthcare. So that 24.6% that I'm paying doesn't just pay for me, but it pays for everyone else as well. If we were a young couple and I had 10 children and each time I took time off work and I had maternity leave, that would be paid. If Mike took some time off work and that got paid with paternity leave. Then imagine that all 10 of those children were really smart and bright and they all went off to university and trained to be doctors. They would leave university and start their careers, or as dentists, they would start their careers without any student loans. Let's imagine that throughout all our working life, that, maybe if we were self-employed, that our business wasn't doing very well. And I had a question about side hustles and what if your business isn't doing very well? We would then apply through the CAF, which would supplement our income and bring it up to a standard of which we could live off. It wouldn't quite bring us up to the income we had lost. So say, for example, Mike was working as a self-employed gardener and we had a whole period of bad weather in which he couldn't work. We had children to look after. Then there's some kind of safety net there. Then imagine that we've got through all of our working life, and then one of the two of us has got dementia, and we've ended up in an EPAD, and we need care for the rest of our lives, and that care level is set. So I've looked up our local EPAD here. It's $1,800 a month for all the care we needed, including all the food and the rent. Could you do that in other countries? I know you can't do that for that amount of money in the UK. And then imagine, although you're paying out all of this money that you lose, on average, like British people do, 30% of your income, and then you are going to get, when you retire at 64 years old, one of the best pensions in Europe, each of you. On average, French people are getting $1,800 a month in pension. They don't worry about that. They don't think to themselves, well, the government's going to stop paying it to me, or the private fund is going to run out. That's on average. Some get more, some get less. Imagine that you spend your whole life never having to worry about, well, what if something happens? Imagine that you're living in a country where nobody ever has to set up a GoFundMe because a child is very, very sick. So, I mean, I've known friends here who've had cancer. Every single bit of their care has been covered, and their insurance is kicked in then from their social security. So it's covered their bills at the same time as covering all their health care. A car has picked them up and taken them to their chemo and brought them home. They haven't had to worry about, can they pay their electricity bill or their water bill, or can they pay for food? And then they got cancer again, and nobody said, oh, but it was a pre-existing condition, we're not giving you that. The whole social security safety net and healthcare kicked in again. So you have to decide, is it worth paying 1/3 of your income or not? Personally, and it is only my personal opinion, I think it's very, very good value for money. And I'm a very, very, very patriotic person. So when I was in the UK and paying my taxes every month and never paying people cash in hand and doing everything properly and legally, I stood shoulder to shoulder with my brothers and sisters in that country, knowing that my taxes went to pay for the chap down the road when an ambulance came and took him to hospital, and then paid for his care, and then paid for him to get better. And I'm standing shoulder to shoulder with my brothers and sisters here in France and paying my tax as well. It's just my personal opinion. You don't have to share it. I hope you found that interesting. Now, I am not a tax or immigration expert. If you want to come and live in France, you must do your own very, very detailed research about visas, could you work here, and so on and so forth. Could you get a job here? All of that. You've got to do your research on that. And the best starting place for that is just to put in Google French government immigration, and it will come up in English because the site is in, and you pick drop down languages that you choose. Thanks for watching. I hope you found that interesting. We'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.